Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We're continuing with our reading of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're up to Madhya Lila chapter 9, and we're in the middle of a purport, which is number 49. I'll tell you how much in the middle of it we are. 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs in. We're starting on the 5th paragraph that starts, we existed in the past in different bodies. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unviditam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyatesh. We existed in the past in different bodies, and after the annihilation of this body, we shall exist in another body. The principle of the soul is eternal, and it exists in this body or in another body. Even in this lifetime, we experience existence in a child's body, a youth's body, a man's body, and an old body. After the annihilation of the body, we acquire another body. The Buddhist cult also accepts the philosophy of transmigration, but the Buddhists do not properly explain the next birth. There are 8,400,000 species of life, and our next birth may be in any one of them. Therefore, this human body is not guaranteed. According to the Buddhist 5th principle, Lord Buddha is the only source for the attainment of knowledge. We cannot accept this, for Lord Buddha rejected the principles of Vedic knowledge. One must accept a principle of standard knowledge because one cannot attain the absolute truth simply by intellectual speculation. If everyone is an authority, or if everyone accepts his own intelligence as the ultimate criterion, as is presently fashionable, the scriptures will be interpreted in many different ways, and everyone will claim that his own philosophy is supreme. This has become a very great problem, and everyone is interpreting scripture in his own way and setting up his own basis of authority. Yathā mat tathā pat. Not everybody and anybody is trying to establish his own theory. Now everybody and anybody is trying to establish his own theory as the ultimate truth. The Buddhists theorize that annihilation or nirvana is the ultimate goal. Annihilation applies to the body. Reserved. Annihilation applies to the body, but the spirit soul transmigrates from one body to another. If this were not the case, how can so many multifarious bodies come into existence? If the next birth is a fact, the next bodily form is also a fact. As soon as we accept a material body, we must accept the fact that the body will be annihilated and that we will have to accept another body. If all material bodies are doomed to annihilation, we must obtain a non-material body or a spiritual body, if we wished the next birth to be anything but false. How the spiritual body is attained is explained by Lord Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad-gītā 4.9. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyakva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the highest perfection. To give up one's material body and not accept another, but to return home back to Godhead. It is not that perfection means one's existence becomes void or zero. Existence continues, but if we positively want to annihilate the material body, we have to accept the spiritual body, otherwise there can be no eternality for the soul. We cannot accept the theory that the Buddhist philosophy is the only way, for there are so many defects in that philosophy. A perfect philosophy is one that has no defects, and that is Vedanta philosophy. No one can point out any defects in Vedanta philosophy, and therefore we can conclude that Vedanta is the supreme philosophical way of understanding the truth. According to the Buddhist cult, the Vedas are compiled by ordinary human beings. If this were the case, they would not be authoritative. From the Vedic literatures, we understand that shortly after the creation, Lord Brahma was instructed in the Vedas. It is not that the Vedas were created by Brahma, although Brahma is the original person in the universe. If Brahma did not create the Vedas, but he is acknowledged as the first created being, wherefrom did Vedic knowledge come to Brahma? Obviously, the Vedas did not come from an ordinary person born in this material world. According to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Teni Brahma Hrida Ya Adi Kavaye, after the creation, the Supreme Person imparted Vedic knowledge within the heart of Brahma. There was no person in the beginning of the creation other than Brahma, yet he did not compile the Vedas. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Vedas were not compiled by any created being. Vedic knowledge was given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created this material world. This is also accepted by Shankaracharya, although he is not a Vaishnava. It is stated that mercy is one of the qualities of a Buddhist, but mercy is a relative thing. We show our mercy to a subordinate or to one who is suffering more than ourselves. However, if there is a superior person present, the superior person cannot be the object of our mercy. Rather, we are objects for the mercy of the superior person. Therefore, showing compassion and mercy is a relative activity. It is not the absolute truth. Apart from this, we also must know what actual mercy is. To give a sick man something forbidden for him to eat is not mercy. Rather, it is cruelty. Unless we know what mercy really is, we may create an undesirable situation. If we wish to show real mercy, we will preach Krishna consciousness in order to revive the lost consciousness of human beings, the living entity's original consciousness. Since the Buddhist philosophy does not admit the existence of the spirit soul, the so-called mercy of the Buddhists is defective. 50. The teacher of the Buddhist cult set forth the 9 principles, but Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu broke them to pieces with his strong logic. All mental speculators and learned scholars were defeated by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and when the people began to laugh, the Buddhist philosophers felt both shame and fear. Purport: these philosophers were all atheists, for they did not believe in the existence of God. Atheists may be very expert in mental speculation and may be so-called great philosophers, but they can be defeated by a Vaishnava firmly situated in his conviction and God consciousness. Following in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, all the preachers engaged in the service of ISKCON should be very expert in putting forward strong arguments and defeating all types of atheists. The Buddhists could understand that Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was a Vaishnava, and they returned home very unhappy. Later, however, they began to plot against the Lord. Having made their plot, the Buddhists brought a plate of untouchable food before Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and called it Mahaprasadam. Purport: the word apavitra anna refers to food that is unacceptable for a Vaishnava. In other words, a Vaishnava cannot accept any food offered by an Avaishnava in the name of Mahaprasadam. This should be a principle for all Vaishnavas. When asked, what is the behavior of a Vaishnava? Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu replied, a Vaishnava must avoid the company of an avaishnav, asat. The word asat refers to an avaishnava, that is, one who is not a Vaishnav. Asat sankatyag a Vaishnav achar. A Vaishnav must be very strict in this respect and should not at all cooperate with an Avaishnava. If an Avaishnava offers food in the name of Mahaprasadam, it should not be accepted. Such food cannot be prasadam because an Avaishnava cannot offer anything to the Lord. Sometimes preachers in the Krishna conscious movement have to accept food in a home where the householder is an Avaishnava. However, if this food is offered to the deity, it can be taken. Ordinary food cooked by an Avaishnava should not be accepted by a Vaishnava. Even if an Avaishnava cooks food without fault, he cannot offer it to Lord Vishnu, and it cannot be accepted as Mahaprasadam. According to Lord Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad-gītā 9.26, Patram pushpam palam toyam, yome bhaktya prayachati, taraham bhakti paritam ashnami pariyatmanaḥ. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf or flower, fruit or water, I will accept it. Krishna can accept anything offered by his devotee with devotion. An Avaishnav may be a vegetarian and a very clean cook, but because he cannot offer Vishnu the food he cooks, it cannot be accepted as Mahaprasadam. It is better that a Vaishnava abandon such food as untouchable. It just reminds me when I first got Prabhupada's books and I read in the Bhagavad-gītā about how you shouldn't eat food that's not offered. I was in high school and I was looking for a spiritual guide, and Mr. King was a Spanish teacher, and everyone said, oh, he's like a Zen master. And students used to go to his house to take classes in Zen meditation, so I went and talked to him. He invited me to come to his program, so I went to his house, and I got there early, and he said I looked too skinny, and I should eat something before we meditate. So he gave me some bread with peanut butter and jelly on it, and I started. I had this obscure way of offering things because I didn't know what the process was. He said, "No, you don't do all that." He said, "Just eat." And I said, "No, I have to." He said, "No, just eat." And we got in a back and forth, so I put it down and I just walked out. And as I was walking out, the other students were coming up the driveway, and they're going, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm leaving." And as I was walking away, I had this experience that I was under guidance from a superior source, because I had been reading the Bhagavad-gītā, and he said, "Offer your food." And he said, "Don't offer." And I said, "No, I'm following this guy. I'm following over here." So it was a visceral experience. With every step I took walking away from the house, I felt, yeah, that's the right thing to do. Just walk away from that guy. It was Krishna in the heart and from the Bhagavad-gītā. Tesham satata yuktanam. 54. When the contaminated food was offered to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, a very large bird appeared on the spot, picked up the plate in its beak and flew away. Indeed, the untouchable food fell on the Buddhists, and the large bird dropped the plate on the head of the chief Buddhist teacher. When it fell on his head, it made a loud sound. The plate was made of metal, and when its edge hit the head of the teacher, it cut him, and the teacher immediately fell to the ground unconscious. When the teacher fell unconscious, his Buddhist disciples cried aloud and ran to the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu for shelter. They all prayed to Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, addressing him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and saying, "Sir, please excuse our offense. Please have mercy upon us and bring our spiritual master back to life." The Lord then replied to the Buddhist disciples, "You should all chant the names of Krishna and Hari very loudly near the ear of your spiritual master. By this method, your spiritual master will regain his consciousness." Following Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's advice, all the Buddhist disciples began to chant the holy name of Krishna congregationally. When all the disciples chanted the holy names Krishna, Rama, and Hari, the Buddhist teacher regained consciousness and immediately began to chant the holy name of Lord Hari. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that all the Buddhist disciples were actually initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu into the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, and when they chanted, they actually became different persons. At that time, they were not Buddhists or atheists, but Vaishnavas. Consequently, they immediately accepted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order. Their original Krishna consciousness was revived, and they were immediately able to chant Hare Krishna and begin worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu. It is the spiritual master who delivers the disciple from the clutches of Maya by initiating him into the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In this way, a sleeping human being can revive his consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In other words, the spiritual master awakens the sleeping living entity to his original consciousness so that he can worship Lord Vishnu. This is the purpose of Diksha, or initiation. Initiation means receiving the pure knowledge of spiritual consciousness. One point to note in this regard is that the spiritual master of the Buddhists did not initiate his disciples. Rather, his disciples were initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they in turn were able to initiate their so-called spiritual master. This is the parampara system. The so-called spiritual master of the Buddhists was actually in the position of a disciple, and after his disciples were initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they acted as his spiritual masters. This was possible only because the disciples of the Buddhist Acharya, received the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Unless one is favored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the disciplic succession, one cannot act as a spiritual master. One should take the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual master of the whole universe, to understand how one can become a spiritual master and a disciple. Text 62. When the spiritual master of the Buddhists began to chant the holy name of Krishna and submitted to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people who were gathered there were astonished. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Shachi Devi, then suddenly and playfully disappeared from everyone's sight, and it was impossible for anyone to find him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived at Tirupati and Tirumala, where he saw a four-handed deity. Then he proceeded toward Venkata Hill. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has actually described the chronological order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit. The Tirupati temple is sometimes called Tirupatura. It is situated on the northern side of Arcot, in the district of Chandragiri. It is a famous holy place of pilgrimage. In pursuance of his name, Venkateshvara, the four-handed Lord Vishnu, the deity of Balaji, with his potencies named Shri and Bhu, is located on Venkata Hill, about 8 miles from Tirupati. This Venkateshvara deity is in the form of Lord Vishnu, and the place where he is situated is known as Venkatashetra. There are many temples in southern India, but this Balaji temple is especially opulent, for a great fair is held there in the month of Ashvina, September-October. There is a railway station called Tirupati on the Southern Railway. Nimna Tirupati is located in the valley of Venkat Hill. There are several temples there also, among which are those of Govindaraj and Lord Ramachandra. After arriving at Tirupati, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Ramachandra. He offered his prayers and obeisances before Ramachandra, the descendant of King Raghu. Everywhere Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, his influence astonished everyone. He next arrived at the temple of Pana Nrsimha. The Lord is so merciful. Pana Nrsimha, or Panakal Nrsimha, is located in the district of Kṛṣṇa. in the hills known as Mangalagiri, about 7 miles from a city known as Vijayawada. One must climb 600 steps to reach the temple. It is said that when the Lord is offered food with syrup there, he does not take more than half. Within this temple is a conch shell presented by the late king of Tanjore, and it is said that this shell was used by Lord Kṛṣṇa himself. During the month of March, a great fair takes place in this temple. In great ecstatic love, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu offered obeisances and prayers unto Lord Nrsimha. The people were astonished to see Lord Chaitanya's influence. Arriving at Shiva Kanchi, Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the deity of Lord Shiva. By his influence, he converted all the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. Shiva Kanchi is also known as Kanchipuram, or the Benares of southern India. In Shiva Kanchi, there are hundreds of temples containing symbolic representations of Lord Shiva, and one of these temples is said to be very, very old. The Lord then visited a holy place known as Vishnu Kanchi. There he saw Lakshmi Narayan deities, and he offered his respects and many prayers to please them. Vishnu Kanchi is situated about 5 miles away from Kanchipuram. It is here that Lord Varadaraj, another form of Lord Vishnu, resides. There is also a big lake known as Ananta Sarovara. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Vishnu Kanchi for 2 days, he danced and performed kirtan in ecstasy. When all the people saw him, they were converted into devotees of Lord Kṛṣṇa. After visiting Trimalaya, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Trikalahasti. There he saw Lord Shiva and offered him all respects and obeisances. Trikalahasti, or Srikalahasti, is situated about 22 miles east of Tirupati. On its western side is a river known as Suvarnamukhi. The temple of Trikalahasti is located on the southern side of the river. The place is generally known as Sri Kalahasti or Kalahasti and is famous for its temple of Lord Shiva. There he is called Vayulinga Shiva. At Pakshitirtha, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Shiva. Then he went to Vridalok, the Vridalok place of pilgrimage. Pakshitirtha, also called Tirukadi Kundam, is located 9 miles southeast of Chimlipat. It has 500-foot elevation and is situated in a chain of hills known as Vedagiri or Vedachalam. There is a temple of Lord Shiva there, and the deity is known as Vedagirishvara. 2 birds come there daily to receive food from the temple priests, and it is claimed that they have been coming since time immemorial. We're going to go see those birds when we're there. At Vridalok, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Śvetāśvatara, the white boar incarnation. After offering him respects, the Lord visited the temple of Lord Shiva, wherein the deity is dressed with yellow garments. Purport: the temple of the white boar incarnation is situated at Vridalok or Sri Mushnam. The temple is made of stone and is located about 1 mile south of an oasis known as Balipitam. There is a deity of the white boar incarnation, above whose head Sheshanaga serves as an umbrella. The temple of Lord Shiva mentioned here is situated in Pitambara or Chittambaram, which lies 26 miles south of Chudalore. The deity of Lord Shiva there is known as Akashalinga. The temple is situated on about 39 acres of land, and all this land is surrounded by a wall and by a road that is about 60 feet wide. After visiting the temple of Shiali Bhairavi, a form of goddess Durga, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Shachi, went to the bank of the river Kaveri. Purport: the temple of Shiali Bhairavi is located in the Tanjore district, about 48 miles northeast of Tanjore city. There is a very much celebrated temple of Lord Shiva there, and also a very large lake. It is said that once a small boy who was a devotee of Lord Shiva came to that temple, and goddess Durga, known as Bhairavi, gave him her breast to suck. After visiting this temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the bank of the river Kaveri, Kolirana, via the district of Tiruchirappalli. The Kaveri is mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11.5.40 as a very pious river. The Lord then visited a place known as Go Samaj, where he saw Lord Shiva's temple. He then arrived at Vedavan, where he saw another deity of Lord Shiva and offered him prayers. Go Samaj is a place of pilgrimage for the devotees of Lord Shiva. It is very important and is located near Vedavan. Seeing the Shiva deity named Amritalinga, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances. Thus he visited all the temples of Lord Shiva and converted the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. At Devasthan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Vishnu, and there he talked with the Vaishnavas in the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya. These Vaishnavas are known as Sri Vaishnavas. At Kumbhakarana, Kapala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw a great lake, and then the holy place named Shiva Kshetra, where the temple of Lord Shiva is located. Kumbhakarna is the name of the brother of Ravana. At the present moment, the city of Kumbhakarna Kapala is known as Kumbhakonam. It is situated 24 miles northeast of the city of Tanjore. There are 12 temples of Lord Shiva located at Kumbhakonam, as well as 4 Vishnu temples and 1 temple of Lord Brahma. Shiva Kshetra within the city of Tanjore is situated near a big lake known as Shiva Ganga. At this place is a large temple of Lord Shiva known as Brihatishvara Shiva Mandir. After visiting the holy place named Shiva Kshetra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Papanashana, and there saw the temple of Lord Vishnu. Then he finally reached Sri Rangashetra. Purport: there are 2 holy places known as Papanashana, which is located 8 miles southwest of Kumbhakonam, and the other lies near the river of Tamraparni, in the district of Tirunelveli, 20 miles west of the city of Tirunelveli, Palamakota. Sri Rangashetra, Sri Rangam, is a very famous place. It lies in the district of Tiruchirappalli, about 10 miles west of Kumbhakonam, and near the city of Tiruchirappalli, on an island in the Kaveri River. The Sri Rangam temple is the largest in India, and there are 7 walls surrounding it. There are also 7 roads leading to Sri Rangam. The ancient names of these roads are the Road of Dharma, the Road of Rajamahendra, the Road of Kulikshekhar, the Road of Alinadana, the Road of Tiruvikrama, the Tirubidi Road of Madhya Gaisha, and the Road of Ada Yavala Indana. This will all be on the quiz later. The temple was founded before the reign of Dharmavarma, who reigned before Rajamahendra. Many celebrated kings like Kulashekar and Yamunacharya Alambandharu resided in the temple of Sri Rangam. Yamunacharya, Sri Ramanuja, Sudarshanacharya, and others also supervised this temple. The incarnation of the goddess of fortune, known as Goda Devi, or Sri Andal, was one of the 12 alwars, liberated persons, known as Divyasuris. She was married to the deity of Lord Ranganath, and later she entered into the body of the Lord. An incarnation of Karamukha named Tirumanga, also one of the alwars, acquired some money by stealing and built the fourth boundary wall of Srirangam. It is said that in the year 289 of the age of Kali, the alwar of the name Tondara Dipati was born. While engaged in devotional service, he fell victim to a prostitute, and Sri Ranganath, seeing his devotee so degraded, sent one of his servants with a golden plate to that prostitute. When the golden plate was discovered missing from the temple, there was a search, and it was found in the prostitute's house. When the devotee saw Ranganath's mercy upon this prostitute, his mistake was rectified. He then prepared the third boundary wall of the Ranganath temple and cultivated a tulsi garden there. There is also a celebrated disciple of Ramanujacharya's known as Quresh. Sri Rama Pillai was the son of Quresh, and his son was Vagvijay Bhatt, whose son was Vedavyas Bhatt, or Sri Sudarshanacharya. When Sudarshanacharya was an old man, the Muslims attacked the temple of Ranganath and killed about 1,200 Sri Vaishnavas. At that time, the deity of Ranganath was transferred to the temple of Tirupati in the kingdom of Vijayanagar. The governor of Jinji, Gopanarya, brought Sri Ranganath from the temple of Tirupati to a place known as Simha-Brahma, where the Lord was situated for 3 years. In the year 1293 Shaka, that's AD 1371, the deity was reinstalled in the Ranganath temple. On the eastern wall of the Ranganath temple is an inscription written by Vedanta Deshika relating how Ranganath was returned to the temple. It's amazing the journey of deities. There's the Radha Krishna deities were brought to Japan during Prabhupada's time, and then one way or another they ended up in India, and in America, then India, then America again. And they just, after how many years? Like 50 years, they just went back to Tokyo. And the devotees, Satyadeva and Maguna, went and got them. They were up in Oregon. Took them on a flight. There was a huge group of devotees that greeted them. They had a red carpet rolled down the street up into the temple, and they welcomed them back. And now they're on the altar there. But you can see how deities sometimes move around due to circumstances. At ISV, our deities have such a history too. Like the Lakshmi and Shringa deities that we have. They used to be in Tijuana, Mexico. But something happened there where the center just went down and down and down, and they were looking for somebody to take care of the deities. They called up ISV, and somebody said, yeah, we'll take them. And forgot all about it. And then on 9/11, you know 9/11? You've heard of it? Yes. It's 2021, 9/11. The devotee was driving them up from Tijuana, or I think they had made it to San Diego, and they were somebody's closet. They put them in a convertible car, and they drove them up to ISV. And they arrived a few hours after the attacks on 9/11. Remember that? The buildings got hit, airplanes, and people were wondering what's going to happen in the world and stuff. And that's when the deities arrived, right at that time, Lakshmi Nrsimhadev. That's something. It's not nothing. After bathing in the river Kaveri, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw the temple of Ranganath and offered his ardent prayers and obeisances. Thus he felt himself successful. In the temple of Ranganath, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu chanted and danced in ecstatic love of Godhead. Seeing his performance, everyone was struck with wonder. A Vaishnava known as Venkatabhatta then invited Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to his home with great respect. Sri Venkatabhatta was a Vaishnava Brahmana and an inhabitant of Sri Rangashetra. He belonged to the disciplic succession of Sri Ramanujacharya. Sri Ranga is one of the places of pilgrimage in the province of Tamil Nadu. The inhabitants of that province do not retain the name Venkata. It is therefore supposed that Venkatabhatta did not belong to that province, although he may have been residing there for a very long time. Venkatabhatta was in a branch of the Ramanuja Sampradaya known as Badagali. He had a brother in the Ramanuja Sampradaya known as Sripad Prabodhananda Saraswati. The son of Venkatabhatta was later known in the Gaudiya Sampradaya as Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and he established the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. More information about him may be found in the book known as Bhakti Ratnakara by Narahari Chakravarti. It's just amazing too, when you go traveling for Krishna, that's your main business, going here, there, and everywhere, you'll meet somebody, and it'll be consequential. What could be more consequential than Mahaprabhu meeting Venkatabhatta? And then you have Prabodhananda Saraswati. And yeah, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and it all came from Mahaprabhu's preaching tour. It was a traveling Sankirtan. It's Lord Chaitanya's arrangement when we go somewhere and you don't know who you're going to meet, but you meet somebody, they become a devotee, they change the world. Sri Venkatabhatta took Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to his home. After he washed the Lord's feet, all the members of his family drank the water. After offering lunch to the Lord, Venkatabhatta submitted that the period of Chaturmasya had already arrived. Venkatabhatta said, "Please be merciful to me and stay at my house during Chaturmasya. Speak about Lord Krishna's pastimes and kindly deliver me by your mercy." Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu remained at the house of Venkatabhatta for 4 continuous months. The Lord passed his days in great happiness, enjoying the transcendental mellow of discussing Lord Krishna's pastimes. While there, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath in the river Kaveri and visited the temple of Sri Ranga. Every day the Lord also danced in ecstasy. The beauty of Lord Chaitanya's body and his ecstatic love of God were witnessed by everyone. Many people used to come see him, and as soon as they saw him, all their unhappiness and distress vanished. Many hundreds of thousands of people from various countries came to see the Lord, and after seeing him, they all chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Indeed, they did not chant anything but the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and all of them became Lord Krishna's devotees. Thus, the general populace was astonished. Krishna nam bina keha nahi kahi ar. Shabe Krishna bhakta hoila loke chamatkar. Krishna nam bina, without chanting Hare Krishna mantra, Mahamantra, anyone nahi. They didn't chant anything but the Hare Krishna Mahamantra after seeing the Lord. Ooh. It was 3:59 anyway, wasn't it? Yeah? We're 4 pages away from yesterday's marker. All the Vaishnava Brahmanas residing at Sri Rangashetra invited the Lord to their homes. Indeed, he had an invitation every day. Each day the Lord was invited by a different Brahmana, but some of the Brahmins did not get the opportunity to offer him lunch because the period of Chaturmasya had come to an end. In the holy place of Sri Rangakshetra, a Brahmana Vaishnav used to visit the temple daily and recite the entire text of Bhagavad-gītā. The Brahmana regularly read the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad-gītā in great transcendental ecstasy. But because he could not pronounce the words correctly, people used to joke about him. Due to his incorrect pronunciation, people sometimes criticized him and laughed at him, but he did not care. He was full of ecstasy due to reading the Bhagavad-gītā and was personally very happy. While reading the book, the Brahmana experienced transcendental bodily transformations. The hairs of his body stood on end, tears welled up in his eyes, and his body trembled and perspired as he read. Seeing this, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. Purport: although the Brahmana could not pronounce the words very well due to illiteracy, he still experienced ecstatic symptoms while reading the Bhagavad-gītā. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to observe these symptoms, and this indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased by devotion, not by erudite scholarship. Even though the words were imperfectly pronounced, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna himself, did not think this very serious. Rather, the Lord was pleased by the bhava, devotion. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.5.11, this is confirmed. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavatyapi namanyanantasya yashon kitani yad shinvanti gayanti grananti sadhava. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. The purport to this verse may be considered for further information on the subject. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu asked the Brahmana, "My dear sir, why are you in such ecstatic love? Which portion of Bhagavad-gītā gives you such transcendental pleasure?" The Brahmana replied, "I am illiterate and therefore do not know the meaning of the words. Sometimes I read the Bhagavad-gītā correctly and sometimes incorrectly. But in any case, I'm doing this in compliance with the orders of my spiritual master." Purport: this is a good example of a person who had become so successful that he was able to capture the attention of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu even while reading the Bhagavad-gītā incorrectly. His spiritual activities did not depend on material things, such as correct pronunciation. Rather, his success depended on strictly following the instructions of his spiritual master. Yasya deve parā bhaktir yathā deve tathā gurau tasyaite kathitā yathā prakāśante mahātmanaḥ. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Śvetāśvatara Up. Actually, the meaning of the words of Bhagavad-gītā or Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam are revealed to one strictly following the orders of the spiritual master. They are also revealed to one who has equal faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, being faithful to both Krishna and the spiritual master is the secret of success in spiritual life. Now we'll take a few reflections or questions.
Maharaj, I just noticed Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to so many Lord Shiva's temple, but there is no description of how did he converted them, or any philosophical discussion he had with them, or what was his method. So I had two questions. First of all, why he went to so many Shiva's temples? Second, is there any description of what was the method he had?
It was alluded to in the purport of the section about the Buddhists. And there were a few descriptions previously that were summaries, saying that for those who were not followers of the Vedic process, he defeated them by logic. As was the case when Prabhupada gave his refutation of the principles of Buddhism in his purport. That's how Lord Caitanya did it. That's what the text said earlier. And then, as far as what he said to people in general was indicated by what he said at Kurmashetra. That was also explicitly stated that you can take it from here. I'm not going to describe how he preached in every place, because it was the same. He went there and told them to chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad-gītā, stay at home, teach other people. Same, like they say in Thailand. Same, but different. Devarata?
I was appreciating Prabhupada's description of how mercy is not the ultimate principle when discussing about Buddhism, because when you meet people who are sentimentally attracted to Buddhism, generally this concept of compassion comes up, but it's generally nondescript and quite ambiguous, and Prabhupada is not really tolerating that ambiguous description. But simultaneously, Prabhupada himself gave a practical example of what compassion was. So I was appreciating how Prabhupada is able to cut through the sentimentality of spirituality and religion and point out the inconsistencies. The other thing which I was appreciating was I was remembering Tribhuvanath Prabhu's memory of Srila Prabhupada, where he said, Prabhupada told him that Krishna consciousness is so simple you might just miss it. And with this description with the Brahmana and Srirangam, I'm reminded of that principle. Krishna consciousness is very simple, so simple you might just miss it.
Thank you. Nice observations. Outside People's Party? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Back here. Haribol. A question arose in my mind. Why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was visiting the Mahadev temples and Durga temples and seemingly setting an example, or maybe he wasn't setting an example, and why do we not necessarily visit these temples as contemporary Vaishnavas?
Why don't you visit the temples?
I have been to some temples, like for example in Navadvip, visiting the Pramatala temple. It's quite nice. And
I see.
But I'm just wondering why is like we go on parikrama with groups of devotees and stuff, and we generally don't visit these temples. I was just wondering.
Well, we're going to go see them. We're going in December to South India, and we'll definitely go to as many as we can. Well, to the principle, Prabhupada explains this. Demigods are servants of the Lord. We say it's an offense to consider the names of demigods to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. We may miss the second one. They're not independent of the names of Lord Vishnu. They're great servitors of the Lord. What to speak of Shiva? Vaishnavanam Tam Shambhu. And if you go to Sanatana Goswami's Bhajakutir, you'll find that it was right next to Shiva Lingam. That's where he worshipped. And when we come to Vrindavan, we're supposed to enter in by taking the blessings of Lord Shiva, who protects the Dham, great servant of the Lord, to enter into Sri Vrindavan. The gopis worshipped Katyayani. Why? To get Krishna as their husband. And the devotees, during the pastime of Shyamataka, when Krishna went to clear his name and do some forensic study of what happened. He went into a cave, he didn't come out, he was fighting with Jambavan, And those on the party with them, they went home dejected, and they thought Krishna was lost, so they were worshipping they were worshipping goddess Durga. Right at that time, Krishna came back into town with the Shamataka jewel and Jambavati, married at that very second. But why did they worship Durga? What was their motive? Please help bring Krishna back. And why did the gopis, gopi girls, worship Caitanya? They said, we just want to marry Krishna. So Prabhupada points out that it's the taboo aspect of worshipping the demigods is when you think that they're independent from Krishna. That's the problem. When you see them in relationship with Krishna, then it's a holistic experience. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and respected those servitors of the Lord because they were servitors of the Lord. Yes?
In relationship to this, there's this anecdote of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Assam. There's a very famous deity of Durga in Assam. And him and his disciples, they climbed all the way up, and when they got to that temple, he started reciting that prayer of the gopis to that deity.
And speaking of Assam, how did Gopakumar get going on his journey? There's the same deity there of Kamakya Devi that the family worshipped, and she gave the Gopal mantra to their devotee, and that's gradually what took him back to Godhead. So just giving this kind of evidence, the mood is not that we go to demigods and we pray to them independent of Krishna, but we go them and see them as servitors of the Lord, and out of respect of their service to Krishna, then we follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and visit in that way. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being it was assuaged all your concern, where did that end up? 1 means that you're completely dissatisfied.
I am,
and worse than before.
Maharaj, I'm 11.
Aww, isn't he sweet? Okay, thank you. All right, let's see who else.
Guru Maharaj, we have Vamsuli Prabhu.
Vamsuli, yeah.
Achintya Chaitanya
He's
Prabhu.
from South India.
And
Go ahead.
Pavitra Renu Mataji, and then we have some online, and Vaishnavi Mataji as well.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Mangal Bhakti and I, we were discussing about this specific guidance that Srila Prabhupada gives on a step-by-step how to defeat the Buddhist philosophy. And this reminds us of the words that Srila Prabhupada's books are the law books for the next 10,000 years, that often quoted statement. And for preachers, everything is in the books. We don't have to look elsewhere to preach the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. This is proof of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a revelation when you actually read Prabhupada's books that there's a lot more in it than you could have imagined. Okay, there was 2 more. Please
Hare
go
Krishna.
ahead. Hare Krishna.
This reference that 1,000 Vaishnavas were killed, which came up earlier in Srirangam. So in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, they hold it that these Vaishnavas were massacred by the invaders due to their committing Vaishnava parā. I just wanted to mention it. That's all, just as a point of information.
I see. So don't commit Vaishnava parā. I mean, there's always some backstory. When we read Krishna Lila and we find the sons of Devaki killed successfully the first 6, we may wonder what kind of Lila is this and where's Krishna in all this. But then when we find out that they had been cursed to take birth there, they were purified, they came back and got the mercy of Devaki and Kṛṣṇa and Balaram and so forth. Okay, there was one more. Thank you, Prabhu, for that. Where's that from?
That is how the Sri Vaishnavas regarded.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, in text 50...
Which one?
In text 53 purport, Prabhupada is saying, sometimes preachers in the Krishna consciousness movement have to accept food in a home where the householder is an Vaishnava. However, if this food is offered to the deity, it can be taken. So when he says if the food is offered to the deity, which deity does he mean?
Well, there's different deities. There's deities in paint, wood, metal, jewels, in your mind. And in a circumstance like this, if we want to conjure a circumstance, you're preaching in somebody's house, for instance, Prabhupada used to go and give his great mercy to people who weren't up to a high standard. As they become well-wishers of the society, become life members, he would take his disciples. Once they were at a house where the inhabitants, of course, wanted to feed the devotees, and some of the devotees were eating the food, and they said, Prabhupada, there's onions in this. And Prabhupada said, I have not seen any onions. Why would he say that? And what is the circumstance? Circumstance is preaching. They're trying to bring some pious people who have not had the revelation about improving their standards in their home. He wants to bring them along to a next level. If he had thrown down his plate and walked out and said, you put onions in our food, they probably never talked to the devotees again, but Prabhupada was there in that context. Jadu Thakur, when Kalidas, whose preoccupation it was to honor the remnants of food of every Vaishnava in Bengal, to take the dust from their lotus feet and the water that washed their feet. That was his job. If he filled out an immigration form and they asked what his occupation was, that's what it would be. So he went to see Jadu Thakur and he brought some mangoes. He said, you please take this. I'm going to sit right here in your house, and when you're done, I'm going to honor the remnants. And Jadu Thakur said, no, I'm a lowly person. I cannot give you remnants of my food. So Kalidas went outside, his usual trick, and he hid in the bushes. Jadu Thakur summarily then offered the mangoes to the Lord in his mind. Then he honored them, and then his wife threw the skins and pits into the compost pile outside. She used to be a thing. Even when we were younger and we used to come to India, everything was compostable. Then plastic came, ruined everything. In any case, he came out, Kalidas came out of hiding, took the mangoes and enjoyed licking and sucking on the pits that was the remnants of the Jadu Thakur, the great devotee, and he felt great satisfaction. One of the lessons there is he offered it in his mind. It was circumstantial. So in this case, if somebody's in a situation where you're preaching, you're in the house, and if the food's cooked by Vaishnavas, for instance, a likely scenario would be you're in the house of some pious people, they have some cook, and they're cooking back there. And that's what it would mostly look like. And it would behoove the person who receives it to offer to Krishna in their mind, and then go on preaching. a scenario. Mahendra Prabhu? Okay. Is there more?
On that point, Prabhupada in the next sentence actually said that even if somebody is vegetarian and clean and cooks it nicely, it cannot be offered. So I guess the explanation is, well, for again the circumstances, if you're preaching and then it can be offered because that's what you can do and for the higher purpose. But if it is like, let's say you're in relatives or parents or somewhere again, but it's not for preaching, and then you have to do something. Again, the food is vegetarian, cooked by your mother or something. What do you do?
I already gave the ultimate quote a few days ago, which caused some controversy. But the principle of preaching was there. It's not, Prabhupada said, and I gave the evidence from another quote, which is, when you're preaching, there's no rules. But then Prabhupada said, don't take it. Don't take advantage of that. But if that's what you're doing, you're preaching, and you're in a situation where you are preaching and that comes up, then it's not that we're a stickler for that particular rule. 1 to 10? 10, okay. Anything else? Yes, a follow-up question, and then...
Maharaj, sometimes they say, like, oh, we offer the food to the deities already, to our deities already.
Who says?
Like the host.
Well, who's the host?
But a Vaishnava host.
And why'd you go there?
Because we were invited for something.
For preaching?
Not really.
Well, that's a different matter. If you're preaching and you're going there for that purpose, then that's the intention and so forth. If you're going to somebody's house for merrymaking, and I'm not saying you were going there for merrymaking, I'm just saying if someone was, it's a completely different situation.
Like a housewarming function or some social functions happening.
Yeah, so in such circumstances, you can ask him to bring you one grape and tell them that at this time of day, due to my astrologer told me I can eat one grape. Please, if you could provide me that, I would deeply appreciate it. And don't eat the bread. My Ayurvedic doctor told me at this time of day, I should eat one grape only. You have to be ready for those circumstances and sort of gradually maneuver your way out of such social situations where you feel obligated to do things that, what I call insult to injury, means it's an insult to our sense of bhakti, and then the injury comes if you actually eat the food, and then you feel weighed down by the karmic reaction of it. So just try to work around it. I know there's certain periods in life when these things are harder than other times. So you make do the best you can with good intentions when you're stuck in such situations, and don't become a weird fanatical person and make everybody wish that you never came to their house or that they never met you. And try to gently work it the other way. Like next time, if that's the situation, bring prasadam. Say, we'll cook, we're going to bring something, and then honor that. You have to be a little inventive to find your way through the maze of the material world, especially, anybody does. You have to be adroit, socially adroit, and figure out how to work your way through those things and maintain your posture. Okay? There was one more.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
2 more, and then we're going to finish. So we only have 250 pages more to go.
Thank you. In verse 79, it says there that the incarnation of the goddess of fortune later entered into the deity of Ranganath. So how is that entering into the deity different from impersonal merging?
Well, because Krishna is the source of all energies, and if he expands himself into a particular form or energy, departure vahita shantanama bhupetya, and then that energy comes back within himself, there's no contradiction or no problem at all. He expands, comes back in. Okay? Chintit Caitanya Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Regarding social interactions that you were discussing, one thing that I've seen is that there are varieties of experience that people have had in the Krishna consciousness movement. But what I've noticed is that whenever somebody does that with genuine intent, however serious or externally strict they may appear, but if it's done with genuine intent, it pays off eventually. Like for example, my wife was preaching in the university. She did that for many years, and Apara Gaurangi is a product of that preaching. What they would do is that even though they were very friendly with everyone, but if they were invited to some birthday party, even if it's a close friend, whatever, they would refuse to attend simply because it's just, what they do, all kinds of nonsense there. So they would never attend. So on one hand, it would look like they're offending these people by not attending their birthday celebration. But since they stuck to it, what they said is they always noticed that whenever these people were in difficulty, the first people that they would approach is these devotees, because they could see that these people are very strict in their principles. At the same time, they're genuine, and they don't compromise when it comes to principles. So it depends on the context also. If it is done with genuine intent, it definitely does pay off. If it's done with disregard and thinking that, looking down upon them, then it may have a negative effect. But if it's done with respect for our principles, then it eventually works.
Well stated, Achinta Chaitanya Prabhu. And your wife has, from making Apara Gaurangi a devotee, she can retire now if she likes. Yes, I noticed that also when devotees go home, or they're, for instance, sometimes recently an initiated devotee had to go on a study overseas and had to live in an apartment with a few other people who ate this and that and had different lifestyles. She was very strict about the way she ate, and every morning she would go out on the lanai and chant her japa so as not to wake anybody up. And at first people thought it was a little strange, but then gradually, and this is often the case, they started asking, so what's in the bag anyway? And then they started facilitating her, and they would ask her throughout the day, did you finish your chanting yet? And that happens often when devotees go home. At first it seems a little awkward, but as you're saying, when they notice that you have principles, then because most people are looking for some principles, they'll say, well, how does it work? At first they may dismiss it, but later on they'll become interested and say, how do you do that? And what is it? And how does it help? And so forth. Now we'll take a break, and we'll come back here at 8 minutes to 12. Panchagopdabhrushcha kripasindave vacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah nantakoti vaishnavi jai go premanande haribo. Tam sasta.